everyone. We are live yet again. Sorry, I had a little glitch there. But we'll be talking about, in this Author's Chat of the Week, books, writing, publishing, and everything in between. And as I keep an eye out for my co-hosts for this evening, I'll get things going by saying I had an amazing time at JordanCon this past weekend, and this is a predominantly fantasy-focused convention in the Atlanta area, and it's called JordanCon, based off Robert Jordan, the author of Wheel of Time. So fans of that particular story and that world system and the show to the books obviously were there, but anybody who enjoyed literature of all sorts, fantasy, sci-fi, etc., so on, it was a fun mix of people, and absolutely loved attending and presenting on panels, modern panels, and of course selling books to new readers, which is really fun for me. So absolutely had a blast. Exhausted. So if I look tired or a little dazed, it's because it's been a long weekend and I'm still trying to gear up for this week, even though I know Monday's almost over, but working through the weekend kind of does that for you. But let me go see if my co-host is up and ready. Yep, let me send an invite. And then we'll get things rocking and rolling. Turn up my volume accordingly. Let's see. Hello, I see you there. Let's see if you send. Hello, I hear you. I don't see you. I don't know why it's not popping you up as a guest. Yes. Hi, how about you back out for a second? Let me send you the invite again. See what's going on. Okay, just 1 second. BRB. Let's see, send the invite. Get this thing going. Hopefully. There's always a glitch, I feel like. Haha. This looks like it'll work this time. Hi.
Good.
Yes. Okay, that's much better. I mean, I enjoy talking to you, but it's nice to see who I'm talking to.
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm fine. It's been a while since we've talked, and I know in part it's because both our lives are very busy. I know you have a family and your kids keep you on your toes, and alongside all things bookish, but I'm very glad we were able to reconnect. It's been a while.
Yeah, definitely.
So for anybody who may not know you and is jumping on, why don't you reintroduce yourself and what you write, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so my current series, my previous series, is The Gifted World. It's a superhero secret agent series, so picture like My Hero Academia meets Mission Impossible. So the series kind of follows these kids going to college, they're learning how to use superpowers, and they kind of go on these secret agent missions with their superpowers. So there's 10 books in all, and the series is done, and now I'm just working on a new kind of a dragon fantasy series I'm going to be launching soon.
Ooh, fun. I feel like it's the year of the dragon, even though I don't think it's actually the year of the dragon. But that's because later on this summer, the book I'll be launching is definitely deep dives in dragon and dragon lore and myth. And so it's been fun talking to all these people who all have the same vibe going on, it sounds like.
Nice.
But as for you, it's always neat to me when I talk to someone who's finished a series and to see how you felt about that, because saying goodbye to characters and just, kind of wrapping up your world is, at least for me, emotional at times. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely agree. It was weird to say goodbye to characters that had been in my head and in my life, I guess, for 15 years. It's a weird thing to do, to have to say farewell and kind of know that I was kind of done with that series. And just say farewell was very weird. It was emotional, but it was also kind of surreal, I didn't it was over, but I was like, what? It was a very weird sensation. I don't know if you can make a parallel between that and anything else, And
it's kind of hard because not only have you created these characters and given them life, they're kind of like your children and your family over
Yeah.
time and friends over time, depending on maybe, your worst enemy too.
Yes.
All the above. But you do develop these deeper connections, and it can be a little tough emotionally,
Yeah.
even if the characters survive. Because
Right.
my series don't do that. But yes, it's a hard thing to like get over, but it also opens up the doors for new opportunities.
Hmm.
So, and you never know, depending on how you wrote the ending, you could open the door to come back to that world or characters at a later date. And because there are people who enjoy prequels and spin-off
Hmm.
series and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've thought about doing a almost like a Jason Bourne superpower thing. So maybe down the road I'll do like a little novella or maybe like a side series kind of thing down the road. But I was really excited to start this Dragon series. I remember it was a couple years ago when I was wrapping up that book series, and I had the idea for this new series because it was kind of based off my D&D campaign. At least took some inspirations from it, at least. And I was like, should I start the book that I'm really excited about and do the dragon one, or should I finish this superhero series? I even posted some videos about it, like asking for people's help and like what their thoughts were. And a lot of people were like, finish the series because once you start the new one, it'll be really hard to go back. And I was like, that's a good point. I know where everything's going to go. I could, if I put it down and come back to it later, I'll forget everything. And I don't think it'll have the same flow and it might not land as well. So I think it was the right call to just finish that one and do the dragon one after that one was all done.
I will say that's the smarter way to do it. I don't do that, and I can tell you that's the smarter way to do that because it
It
is.
was so hard. It was very hard to like have the willpower to stop. Like I started planning and like doing a little bit tinkering with like the world building and the outlining, but it was probably one of the most like it was one of the hardest. Like I was like focusing and trying so hard to get it out because yeah, it was very challenging to not because I really wanted to start it because I had all these ideas and it was like exciting, and it was new, so I was like really really wanting to. But that was probably the most willpower I've ever had and expressed in my whole life.
And for anybody who's listening who's beginning their writing journey, every author is different. So obviously, I like the idea, and I do recommend it, knowing that I do the opposite. I fully acknowledge that, but do recommend, if you especially have long projects and you don't always want to get distracted with all the new shiny ideas, which are really cool, but don't
Yeah.
necessarily do that. On the other hand, there is something to say that if you are bogged down and you do get stuck on a project, it is sometimes nice to do, as I've done in the past, these palate cleansing books. And because it just stirs up the creative juices when you've been,
Yeah.
having writer's block or something else. And it allows you to not only get your rhythm back, but kind of refresh yourself. So
Yeah.
it just depends. But yeah, finishing a project before jumping into a long one, I feel like I think is a smarter thing. I know from past experiences, because I'm always working on multiple projects, if I'm catching up on, let's say, what I'm doing right now, I'm writing the 6th book of a series, I have to reread the whole prior book, which is, that much time, and then remake some notes of the details that I just want to make sure I pull into it. And it does take time. It kind of slows down again, that
Yeah.
flow from book to book to book of a series.
Yep. Absolutely. And then there's a lot that goes into like writing one book. So writing the 6th book or the 7th book is just like exponentially compounds that like challenge and everything because there's more storylines, there's more threads that need to be kind of woven in. So yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into a series, And then one of the things I ran into, because when I was writing this series, even though it's 10 books, it takes place in our world, it takes place in our timeline. So like I don't have to create the physics of the world. Whereas when you're writing a fantasy, you have to make everything from the religions to the practices to the cultural stuff to all the things. Like you, and I was like, when I was starting it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like starting to make these like Google Docs and everything. And I was like, oh man, I have to create everything. And it's just like, it's such a different ballgame.
It is, and it also depends on what kind of fantasy, right? Because I have talked to enough fantasy authors where if you are keeping really tightly maybe the whole story or the first couple books or maybe even the whole series in a city, you can get away without having as much of the detail already set in stone versus someone who's traveling across continents of a world
Right.
system. So,
Yeah,
it all
definitely.
depends on what you're trying to get out of that story. I did see a question come up a little bit ago asking, what is your favorite aspect of world building?
Ooh, that's a really good question,
It's
Broomball,
hard to
dude.
answer.
That's a really good question. I've enjoyed doing world building a little bit differently with the series, and not in every aspect, but I've done a little bit of world building kind of bottom up, I guess you would say, instead of like making the overarching aspects of certain things. There have been a couple things that I've kind of come up with because I created a cool character or I created a cool like concept for something. So it was like kind of niche and small, and I was like, oh, maybe that'll explode and that'll be give me an idea for other bigger things. So like for example, one of the things I came up with first was I had this cool idea for like a monk character,
Yeah.
and then as that kind of grew and I was like really kind of wanting to play with that kind of character, I was like, oh, okay, so maybe the whole religion will be a little bit more monastic and it'll be more aligned with like Shintoism or like natural energies and things like that. Kind of like did a little bit of research on Shintoism, and that was really fun to kind of like create this overarching scheme of the world and kind of like how the religion works in that country, and kind of do it by creating like a single character. So that was really interesting because I think a lot of world building is like here are the big systems and the big overarching things I want to create for the world, and I was doing it a little bit probably backwards and a little bit more uh, slower, I guess, or just not as maybe efficient, even, you know?
Well, it's all how your brain's wired as an author.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, as a person who has attempted different series, and each one is dramatically different based on the magic system, the worlds, the dynamics, etc., so on. Depending on the project and what I'm trying to get out with the book and how I'm approaching it from the start, will tell me how I'm building out the world. I have one series where I already kind of developed the ancient history and the magic system, the forgotten parts of the history that the characters don't know, and kind of working forward with that, and based on developing the again the history of the world. It helped me flesh out the geography and the characters and how they think, the way they are, etc., so on. So it was one way I approached it. Meanwhile, the other long series on world building at the moment is a D&D meets Witcher kind of progression fantasy, and I've had a lot of fun doing things like pulling my readership and having them help create monsters that will be featured in the book. And depending on what monster they create, I will know that there has to be this kind of there has to be a location that makes sense for them. So it's helping me build out ecosystems and world
Oh, yeah.
maps. And just based off the monsters, I know the characters will have to at least come in contact with throughout the first book. So
Right. Yeah.
world building's fun because you can approach it 1,002 ways.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's cool that you like your readership is kind of got some hands in, and that can kind of drive story and kind of flush out like creative narrative techniques and things in a different way that you might not have otherwise. So like I think doing it in different ways, can flesh out the story in different ways. When somebody asked something about like TTRPGs, I'm actually running a D&D game kind of set in my world, and it's been really fun to kind of play with that and kind of like test out some narrative things and throw some like things that the characters that probably won't happen in the books, but they're like they meet characters and stuff that are in the books and stuff. So it's kind of fun to kind of like flesh out things and kind of. I really like D&D for the creative aspect and kind of stretching those creative muscles that way. So that's been really fun to do and kind of world built a little bit, like lean into that inspiration, right? When a character says they want to do this and they roll and they get a nat 20, it's like, okay, let's go with it. That inspiration is really fun.
And I do think the games, or the idea of like how the gameplay, game flow, is a great way to kind of start working on world building, because there is a group of lit RPG authors, and it is RPG games put into a literature format. And I see A.P. Beswick actually popped in here for a moment, well, actually a little while. He's been here hanging out, but he just launched his first lit RPG book. But everybody approaches, again, stories very differently, and it's just fun. You never know what's going to inspire you. So what made
Absolutely.
you decide to jump from superhero to dragons? That's a bit of a jump, actually.
It's a huge jump. Yeah, it really is. So like this series, I didn't really necessarily plan to write a series. This one kind of was, I'm a teacher. I wrote this story because my students and I were doing creative writing, and I wrote a little, I have it somewhere around here. It's like this little like 3 or 4 page story that my kids were like, Mr. V, that was so cool. You should publish it into a book. So I did one thinking I'd be done and it would be cool to have in my shelf, and my kids would be like, be cool way to get my kids into reading. But I got really into it. I got like really obsessed with it, and I'm a creative writing person anyway. I like narratives and stuff like that in books and D&D and video games and all the stuff, right? So it was like, I think a natural, avenue for me to go. And next thing you know, I've written 10 books, and I wasn't really planning on it. But I think my reading was a big one, and then like playing D&D. We wrapped up my campaign, and I was like, I'm not done playing with these stories, and I kind of have these other ideas. So I was like, I mean, D&D there's so many so many skills that translate right over to writing, really. And so I was like, I kind of want to take this world that I've already created, and I want to tell other stories and explore other things in this world. So I was like, I think I'm just gonna do it. But my D&D game was really just so I saw a TED Talk about how D&D is a really good way for people to like stretch those creative muscles, and how a ton of like writers and directors and creatives kind of got their start in D&D. So I was like going to run a little game, and I thought it would only be a couple sessions, but next thing I know, it was like 5 years. And so I created the whole world and everything. And I was like, after it was all done, I was like, I kind of want to continue to tell stories there. So I, fine-tuned some things, and then kind of like worked with some other things. So I think it was just kind of like the natural, progression of like my reading and everything.
Well, absolutely. And my future, like I said, D&D, Witcher, progression fantasy, it's because I was playing, and the character I developed, I wanted her to be a lot darker than the game master wanted. So I had to tweak her a little bit, but I loved her backstory. I loved the character, and I was just like, I need to make you have your story. And and then, so that was kind of one of the reasons why I was like, been really interested in getting into that future series. But on the flip side, talking about, again, interesting how today people are approaching things that were very nerdy and taking them and showing them in a little more serious light, or finding more benefits than just a bunch of kids playing in the basement for Dungeons and Dragons. Actually, on here there was I don't know what age he taught, but a teacher who ran a D&D campaign for his class during school, and it was styled after Oregon Trail. So through through the
I know you're talking about.
play, they were learning history, and they were learning, I mean, I remember growing up playing Oregon Trail, but like there was so much to that game where it's a game, but there's so much you can learn from it. So anything from like old school medicine theory and survival techniques. And I thought that was a brilliant way to approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw some comments. People were like, are you going to make it a campaign and you're going to publish it or whatever? And people were like, that'd be amazing. Yeah. That'd be super cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But with your future series, jumping back to the book side of things, do you have any clue how long of a series you want to write, or are you going to keep it open-ended for now? Because, I mean, all is okay.
Yeah. I have, I think 6. I have like the general outline of like 6 so far. And I think there might be like 7-ish, but I don't have a like hard, like this is going to be the end of the series. I have another, like, it's going to be in the world, but it's going to be kind of like a parallel, like maybe novella series. I'm not sure how long those ones will be. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe 7 or 8, but it could be longer. I didn't necessarily plan to do 10 in that series, but like just had more ideas, I guess. And I wrote 2, I think, during COVID, and so that kind of like made the series a little longer too. So yeah, but we'll see. I think 7, but it might be a little longer. We'll see.
It also depends on how your story starts fleshing out and where you want to break things, because I've definitely had that experience where it's supposed to be a standalone. No, it's a 4-book series. It's supposed to be 7 books. Well, they might be 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the other hand, I had my novella series, which I was like, it's going to be 16. End of story. And it was 16. So
Yeah, I really want to like play in that world, and I like there's authors like Z.S. Diamante who has his like original trilogy, and he's got a couple like standalone companion books and everything. So I might do something like that. But I think I like kind of like a like slightly longer series. Like I don't want to necessarily just do a single trilogy. I like sorry, there someone honked outside. I don't want it to just be a single trilogy. I think I want it to be like longer and kind of explore a bunch of different things because it's got a kind of more Game of Thrones cast where it's like a wider cast. So to really explore all their stories and everything and really intertwine things, I think it needs to be a little longer. So yeah, I'm thinking probably 7 or more. Seven's probably like the minimum, I think.
I like that. I like that. And
Yeah.
there's like I just started reading recently the Legend of Drizzt series,
Hmm.
and it's because the author would publish them in like little trilogies or different bundles, but there's still the whole universe. It's still actually a
Yeah.
long story. It's just
Yeah.
it was like little like here's your arc one. Okay, but now we're gonna
Yes.
take characters in arc two, in arc three, and I don't remember how many there are right now. Like I said, I'm just starting that journey, but
Yeah. There's
uh,
a ton.
there's a
There are a
lot.
lot. Yeah. I don't know the number, but I just know it's a ton. I kind of similar. Like I got into the first couple of Dragonlance, and then someone told me like there's 100 plus, and I was like, oh wow. They're like, you probably should read just the first 4 and see how you feel after that. But they're like, there's a ton. I was like, oh wow, that's a huge investment.
That is, and that's one of the things is when it comes to some of these longer fantasy series, I want to say I've read them, but I'm such a slow reader, and part of that is just
Hmm.
not having a lot of time to read things that
Yes,
aren't my own
absolutely.
books that I'm working on. But also, I'm a slow reader, so combined, it doesn't help that much. But I am trying to now catch up. Thus the Drist, thus the Wheel of Time, and things like that. But it's still fun. It's
Yeah.
so much fun.
No, I'm right there with you. I'm a slow reader, and I used to do like 24 books was like my goal for Goodreads, and I was like, it was such a struggle to get there every time, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm writing, and I have a busy life, and I have kids, and I have work and everything. So I don't know where this arbitrary 24 number came from. I'm just gonna like kind of like let go of that, and just however many books I read is how many I read, and I think I want to focus more on the writing stuff. So like, why have
Mhm.
this arbitrary goal for how many books I need to read? Reading is reading. I'm not going to have a number for it, but
You
yeah,
don't want
it's
to feel
hard
that.
to get through. What's
Yeah, you
that?
don't want. I said you don't want to feel that pressure because I know when
Yeah.
there was a time when I also set goals, and if I was at the end of the year, I would look at, oh, I have 3 books I need to read in like 3 weeks, and I'd be like reading the
Mhm.
smallest little novellas, trying to like just
Yes.
get the number. And I was like, that's not fair. A lot of the books I like to read are the chonkers, and so
Yes. Yeah.
I would
Absolutely.
avoid those because I was like, I'm not going to hit my quota. I'm like, that's not fair. What am I
Yes.
doing? Reading should be fun.
Absolutely.
Should be whatever you want and enjoy.
Yes.
But
100%.
but when you're talking about between the two series, I know for sure you're talking about having a decent sized cast for this upcoming Dragon series. I can't remember how many POV characters you had in your original superhero action side of things.
It's really just one. It's third person, so it explores a bunch of them, but it's really focuses on just the main character, Gabriel, and his journey. So it's really only one, but there are 4 main characters.
Okay, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I this one I'm doing like main POV chapters, kind of Game of Thrones. Like if you've read A Song of Ice and Fire, it's like this is Jon Snow's chapter and then Daenerys chapter. So it's kind of like that. Whereas in this one, it was just like here's the story, kind of more like I guess more cinematic, more just like movie like chapter chapter chapter, kind of telling the story. So yeah, it's really just one POV.
So did you find or have you found that it's a little more challenging branching into multiple POVs as you're kind of working out your next book project, or have you?
Yeah,
I don't know how far along in that the writing process you are for your first one.
yeah, it's been challenging. So right now I'm working on. So I finished writing the third book, and I started the developmental edits with the editor, and we were going over those. I think it was last week. We did like a little video chat and went through like the notes she sent me and kind of like discussing certain things. And so we actually ended up cutting 2 characters. Just because like, I was telling her like I made them interlude chapters, kind of like side chapter kind of things almost because I was like I'm not really sure they're gonna fit in the story, and the word count's getting a little beefy for the first book. And so I was like, these might be cut. So like, let me know what you think about them. So we decided we're going to cut those ones. And I'm not really even sure why I decided to do so many POVs and do it the way I did. I just thought it'd be a fun way to tell that story and kind of have like a wide cast and everything and explore like all the different aspects of this queendom and like what's going on and all the different dragon attacks and everything. But yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of a fun way of doing the chapters. And one thing she did say is like, be really careful of those like character slips where you're like, you know, this is Flint's chapter, but you have a little section here about what D'Artagnan's thinking or what this character's thinking. And I was like, oh yeah, that's tricky because it's this character's POV, but I'm like, I have a little sentence in one paragraph that's like, you know, this character thinks this, and it's like, can't really do that. So I was like, oh man, you're right. So that was one thing she was like, be careful of, because you have a couple of those.
Yeah, I know, even though I have been up until a future book that's coming out, all my original 3 series, they're single POV, big cast of characters, but single POV. And when I started working on my first multiple POV project, I had to be very aware of like how people thought, make sure you didn't slip into one of the other ones headspace, because you're telling it from this chapter is this character, and you have to be true to that character.
Absolutely.
And it is a learning curve. If you're not,
it was very different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I will have to say, the fun thing about there's pros and cons for both. And the fun thing about the multiple POV, as you were mentioning, is that you can tell a story from multiple areas around a kingdom, a world, a universe, whatever you're writing, and versus writing a story where you really are limited to one character. So there may be cool things happening, but if that character is not aware of it, how does the reader know it?
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think it's a unique way, and it's challenging because like if you do have a big cast, like trying to bring them all together at the end, or you know, like they all team up to fight the bad guy or whatever the scenario is. It's a different ball game than like, because these ones are a little bit more like Mission Impossible. Teams join together, they solve the mission or whatever, right? This and the fantasy, they're all kind of doing different things, you know, like this character's off in this part of the world, this one's doing this, and then they kind of like have to kind of come together at the end, or at least most of them do, and that part can be challenging. Like, so I know for the second book, I was telling my developmental editor, I was like, that one's going to be a little bit more editing, I think, because I don't think I nailed the ending where like they come together and everything. So I was like, it's going to take a little bit more work. The first one, I think it was pretty streamlined. It was pretty seamless from the get-go. And the third one too, but I was like, the second one, I think I needed to redo some chapters and some editing to kind of get them there, because it's not as, I don't know, tight, I guess, or it's not as like streamlined, I guess, to get them all where they need to be, you know?
It's all part of the process.
Yes. Do you enjoy the editing, or is editing a little bit more of a challenge for you? I know for me, editing is like, I don't want to edit. I'd rather go write the next book than edit, you know?
Well, I think that's the case for most people.
Okay,
if you have the choice, I think pretty much everybody's going to choose write the next book. But for me, I don't necessarily, I guess it's not really saying, oh, I love editing, but I'm not opposed to editing. There are definitely some people who like bulk edit. It's just, again, part of the process, part of the way to polish everything up. And it's when you reread your manuscript for like the 150th time and you kind of get a little glassy-eyed because you're like, what am I doing? Yeah. That's when it kind of gets a little, tedious. Yeah. But so far, editing, I've not been opposed to. I am about to work with a new editor for a future project. And so new editor will be probably a different way of approaching things. So until I get used to her style, I'll probably have to kind of figure that out. But no, I'm not necessarily opposed. It's just part of the process, par for the course.
Yeah. Well, you have a much better outlook on it than I do. I see writing as like fun, and then editing is like work. And I'm like, I don't want to work. I don't want to go do that. I'm like, it's so like, it's, yeah, like you said, there's the parts that are really tedious. You have to read the sentence a bunch of times, and like, because like, there's a track changes over here, and it's like, she says do this, and I'm like reading, I'm like, okay, did I really do that? Did I do a good job with it? And it's like, it's much more, fine-tooth comb and like fixing all the little details, whereas I'm just, I think the writing aspect is just really fun. I love just like pumping out words and writing and everything. And it's just like, all right, fine, I'll go edit, even though I don't want to. you know?
If I have to, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's my outlook. And I'm
Yes.
yes, it's a problem. I need to fix my attitude about it because it's sometimes I'm like, I don't want to. I'm like, can I just publish it now? And I'm like, no, that's a terrible idea. I can't do that.
Well, unless I'm just in a really bad mood, I do know I list to the side of optimism for most things. So if
Yeah.
you ask me questions, it's probably because that's just inherently the way I like. I want to look at the world that way. Let me do
Mhm.
that. Let me use my rose-colored glasses. You know, just let me do that. It makes me happy.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that's really neat. And also with this upcoming series, what age range are you catering it to?
It's probably more. I don't know if the right term is adult fantasy. Because I'm not sure exactly if that means like it's a clean fantasy book, but it's
It's teen and adult.
yeah, okay. I was just make sure. I was like, I'm not sure exactly. I needed to like do a little research, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of adult fantasy, epic fantasy. Um, but it's whereas my other series is more like a little bit more YA, a little bit more maybe even closer to middle grade. Um, but yeah, this one's going to be a little bit more adult focused, and that's part of why I'm like I need to like make sure my editing's really good, and I want to make sure it's like because I kind of look at that. My first series is kind of like it's a little bit of practice. I was very new with things. It was a little more of like a younger audience, so I was like with an adult audience and everything. I want to make sure the development and editing is really good. And I want to get it obviously line edited and proofread and all the things to make sure because I think a kid might not notice a little typo or error there, things like that. So, but I think adults will be a little bit more, um, nitpicky, obviously, things like that. But I want to make sure
It's
it's,
still gonna happen.
yeah,
It happens with
yeah,
every book. Tried, published, all the way through indie. It happens. It's annoying, but it
yep,
happens. But
absolutely,
we do our best when it comes to editing. But yeah,
yeah,
for example, going back, adult clean fantasy, Lord of the Rings is one, and you mentioned Diamante's series, and his original trilogy would fall into an adult clean fantasy.
yes,
So it's one of those. It's weird because yes, a younger person could read it and enjoy it and all that, but because the characters are on the adult side of things,
yes,
and the and maybe the verbiage is a little more mature. I mean,
hmm
yeah, you can have it all.
yes, definitely. That's my hope, right?
It's probably not like. It would be maybe I don't know if you could have a clean grimdark. That would be interesting. You probably could. But that would be hard. Maybe not.
Yes, it would be a fine line to walk, but I
I
think it'd be
don't know how
doable.
that would work. So maybe you
Yeah,
can't have it all, but uh,
right,
but your any one book can fall into multiple genres. So
right.
and yeah, categories and et cetera, so on. So I get it. I'm always trying to find better ways to pitch my books. For instance, my young
Mhm.
adult series starts with the younger side of YA and working with like different terms and testing out to see what interests people. I used to use portal fantasy all the time, but then I started switching to isekai. Same thing,
Mhm.
just from a different the
Yeah.
word came from a different country, and then all of a sudden people were like, "Oh, I
And
get that."
it's popular. It's kind of I
And
don't want
I
to say
was like,
buzzword, but it's
"Okay,
popular now.
isekai."
Hmm
But yeah, it's all how you pitch
hmm
it. So
Yeah.
when it comes actually, let's talk about marketing because joy
Yes.
of marketing. How have you been doing, and what are you currently enjoying? I guess different approaches you enjoy at the moment when you're marketing, if there's any.
Oh man, yeah, that's a tricky one because marketing is my least favorite thing, even less so than editing. I've been trying to do a little bit more of the. I'm not going to say the word because I don't want it to flag your video or violate or anything. But the other video app, if you're familiar, you know what I'm talking about. I've been trying to do more content on there, more long form, and that's been interesting. Kind of like trying to drive sales to my books and my book series and everything. So that's been my newest endeavor because I remember like what was it like a couple weeks ago, we were all like, "Is TikTok going away again?" And we went through that whole thing again. So TikTok's been great for getting sales and stuff for me. So it's been really good. But I remember like right up until the day of, we were all like, "What's going to happen? Is it going away?" And then I think we have another month or so before we have that again. And so I was starting to do more content over there because we're going to be in this nebulous state until something happens more officially, I guess. So I've been trying to do more content over there to drive sales to my books and everything. So that's been kind of my newest endeavor. So it's just another project that we as indies have to, figure out and learn and get better at, I guess. So that's been the newest thing I think that,
I
well, not newest, but most time consuming, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like to repurpose things. And I don't want someone to be bored if they are following me on multiple platforms. And so I do try and change up how I rotate things. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the same stuff across the board, but I do
Yeah.
repurpose things. Anything from like the videos here or stills there. And if you're there, if your places long enough, you'll be like, I think I've seen this somewhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
I probably have.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
okay.
Hmm.
Hopefully it still resonates. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so try to be as efficient as possible. If I'm gonna spend time making a video, I'm gonna get the
Hmm.
maximum.
Yeah, definitely. And they say it takes like, I don't know the number off the top of my head specifically, but they say it takes a couple of times of people seeing that video or that cover or whatever it is for them to be like, oh, I'm gonna go check that out. So I think having it in multiple places and doing it in different ways is a good way of like letting them see it, but maybe not the same video 3 times. Like, because I know I follow a lot of the authors, so if I follow you on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, I'm gonna see that same video a couple times. And so I was obviously, as an author, I'll always post them or reshare them or whatever we can do. But I'm not on the readers only side, so I don't know what that mindset is when they see the video 3 times.
And here's the fun thing is like depending on the platform, algorithms are very different.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me like how many people who follow me and actually try to see all my stuff. They
Hmm.
purposely are trying to, which makes you feel very good. But they still miss things. And they're like, wait, how long has that been out? Or I didn't know that. And I'm like,
Hmm.
algorithm is so weird. I don't know. And so that's one of the reasons why I think everybody should be aware. It's like, if you do see something multiple times, it's just because we're trying to get the message out, whatever that may be. If it's a little bit of humor or if it's, hey, there's a book sale going on, or I had just had a launch, but we're just
Yeah.
trying to get the news out there. I realized today, because I was kind of prepping some videos on this platform. And then after I was kind of done moving on to something else, I was like, you know what? I haven't talked about recently. I have an upcoming Kickstarter, and I need
Yeah.
to start
Oh, cool. Congrats.
making more videos about that because I posted a few, and then because I haven't posted them again and again and again, I'm like, oh, yeah, I need to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's
Again,
cool. That's for this new series you were talking about before?
that one is actually going to help with the fifth book of my YA series.
Nice.
That's going to launch later on this summer. So that one's just a basic kind of idea, just help kind of offset some of that publishing
Yes.
cost.
Yeah, that's what mine have all been. I know some people do it for like books that have already come out or like the special editions or the other things, but yeah, that's usually what I've been doing for mine is like this is coming out, and I'm helping with the audiobook or doing this way or whatever you want to add to it. So
Yeah,
that's
later on this year, I'm going to do, it's my first year, we're going to try to run 2 of these. Later on this year,
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing my first special edition.
Nice.
And so I've been working right now trying to work with all the artists I'm commissioning to do all the fancy things. It's a lot.
Nice.
So that will be a thing also.
Very cool.
This year I'm not publishing a lot, but I'm doing a lot.
Yeah. Hmm. I hear you. Yeah, I feel like the same thing. I feel like I'm busier now than I have been, but I haven't published anything this year yet. So it's like crazy.
It is interesting. There are those years where you're doing so much behind the scenes that people don't necessarily see as you're prepping. And yeah, I'm just saying this is a big prep year for a lot of things, as well as kind of doing these alternative things like the special editions.
Yeah.
And I took this year at the beginning of the year, I took all my ebooks and most of my audiobooks and put them so they're widely distributed. That took a little bit of time to figure all that out,
Yeah.
but it's something that it's not new. It's just new places.
Yeah. 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 So like right now, I'm not publishing new books, but I have 2 of my 3 audiobooks that I'm going to put out this year are out. And again, it's like I have to listen to all of them and like approve them and everything. But again, it's not new, but those are coming out. And so it's just more, there's a lot on our indie plates, that we're spinning a lot of plates.
They're always yes. The answer is yes. Just
Yeah.
just.
Always.
But let me ask, because the hour is going to start picking up quickly around this time, and this is just because talking about repurposing. I'll hopefully be able to, if this app is nice, be able to repurpose this live on my YouTube channel. Yeah. And I'll put all your content down below. So awesome. For everybody's here, where can people find and follow you outside of Book Talk? Other socials, website, newsletter? Where do you hub outside of this amazing book community?
My newsletter is on Substack, so I think it's LD Valencia author. I think on most platforms. So you can follow me on Instagram, and I do have a YouTube presence as well. So I'm doing some longer form content over there, and then you can follow me on that one as well, or Facebook, or any other Meta platforms too.
Nice. And then the other question that is the big one is, where can your books be found? Do you sell direct? Are they exclusive through Zon? Or are they wide? Where can people get your books?
Primarily on the TikTok shop and the Zon are where I purpose. One of my next project is going to be creating either a Shopify or something. That's just another one of those things that I have to learn and set up soon. Yes, it is. Yeah, I know you and I think it was Andy Peliquin was posting about just getting his Shopify up and running and everything. And I was like, teach me. I was like, show me what you did. Post some videos, show me so I can kind of figure that out, please.
So I wouldn't know where to start when it comes to doing a video thing. So if people have specific questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, there are certain things that I had to learn to set up, but because they're a one-time thing, doesn't mean I remember how to do them.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I hear you.
And so I'll actually be talking to another author tomorrow. We'll have a phone little chat because he wants to figure out how to do a Shopify. So I'm like, nice. I'll try to keep what I know. You come with the questions, and I'll see if I have the answers.
And I know for me, I don't know if this is how you feel, but a lot of being an author, I feel like is kind of like failing forward. You know what I'm saying? You're trying new things, and sometimes they work really well. Sometimes it's like, that didn't work really well. But it's like, you're always kind of progressing forward. But a lot of it's like trial and error and trying things until they work, or, oh, that didn't really work, so I'm going to try it this way. And so I think a lot of being an indie author is just kind of failing forward until something hits or something clicks and you just start making more sales and, things start moving upwards.
Well, I fail forward all the time.
Every day.
I feel like a parrot myself. But yes, I feel like I do everything the wrong way at least once.
Yes,
hopefully
absolutely.
Only once.
Yeah.
But I know I've done it, it feels like I've done everything the wrong way. Wrong way. And then it just takes a while, but it's okay.
I was looking for, see if I have it up here, but yeah, just getting my first act as an author was, I went with a hybrid vanity press for my first book, and I was like, now I know. I'm like, don't do that. Never do that. I just was not a good experience for me. The cover wasn't really good. I'm trying to see if I have it around here somewhere. But yeah, the overall process. And I was like, well, that's the first mistake of many in this author journey.
It is sad that how many people fall for the vanity presses. And there is a super, super, super niche group of people that it would work for.
Yes.
You're not really trying to be an author. You're not, you just want to see have a physical print of your book, and that's pretty much what you want.
Yeah.
That may work. But most of us want our stuff to succeed in as best as it can, or as wide as it can, to as many people. And it's unfortunate how many people fall or don't realize what they're doing until it's too late.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one.
No, and when I first got into it, I thought it would just be the one book and everything. But once I kind of started writing everything, I was like, no, I do want this to be a series, and I think I am going to write more. And by that point, I was like, it's such a hefty cost. And I know personally, it was like, I feel like I didn't get anything out of it. And it was just kind of like, what did I pay for? Because you can find my cover on Zon for the old one. Somebody's selling, I think, a thrift bookstore. You can it's still attached to mine. It has one copy, and they're selling it. And it's not a great cover, and the editing wasn't very good. And I remember at the end of the process, I was like, what did I pay for? In the end, the only thing that I think and this is paying way too much for it, was there was a Kirkus review attached to it. It was a good review, and it was but other than that, I was like, I don't really feel like I got anything out of it, because I had to get a new cover, and I got it re-edited because I didn't really trust the editing. So it was kind of a very expensive review. That's all I got.
Yeah. Again, you're not the only one. I have talked to Oh my goodness, at least a dozen authors on here, if not more, who've had
Yeah.
similar stories. I do see a positive comment popping up there. One, thank you for saying this is an amazing interview. I appreciate that. But it's saying indie authors have a lot to learn to be writers, editors, etc. It's true because
Yeah.
there's no one right way to publish, and you could go trad, you could be hybridized and various means, you could be just truly indie. But there are pros and cons. Is on the indie side, you do it all unless you can afford to outsource.
Yeah, hire things out. Mm-hmm.
But and that is a big learning curve of all the things that you could, because last year, was it last year? Maybe it might have been last year when I was doing the whole figuring out Shopify and trying to figure out how to do the TikTok shop. And this year I was dabbling with Patreon for the first time and Discord and trying to set those things up and trying to teach it. We're always learning. And again, some things are going to be more fruitful than others, but we're always trying to learn. If you're not continuing to learn, you're going to fall behind.
Absolutely, 100%. It's very true.
But let me ask you, actually, is there anything that you wanted to talk about pertaining to maybe your upcoming books, or the fact that you have, your first complete series?
I think I had a question for you about like your in your world building and everything, and how you like to do like your narrative flow and everything, because I love personally talking shop with authors and everything, so I like asking them about like their creative techniques and things that they like to do and what works for them. So I guess my question for you would be, like, what are some of your narrative techniques to kind of get in the flow of writing, or just like your world building and stuff like that? Do you have any like things that help you be more productive, things like that? Like, do you have any tricks or things that you're like, this really works for me?
Well, I am a creature of habit. Mm-hmm. So if I do things the same way, it allows me to get into that mindset quicker if this is the time of day I write. And I have realized that if I miss that window, it's so much harder for me to write at a different time of day, at least new words. I can edit and do other things, but I'm a morning person. And if I miss that mark, if I don't start writing between the hours of like 9 and 11, then I'm in trouble. And so I do like the thing about routines, because I do know, at least for me, the way I work, if I follow the routine, it, again, gets me into that mindset a lot quicker, and I can be more productive that way. But yeah, as far as world building goes, every project's so different. And I've realized I could split my body of work into twofold. One are my truly novels, truly novel stories, where I'm creating these worlds and building out pretty much everything being high fantasy, second world stuff. And then the other half is retellings of various sorts, predominantly myth-based stuff. And so when I'm doing a retelling, it's quicker to write because the storyline is pretty much there. Yeah. I'm just retelling it. The characters are kind of already there. I'm just retelling it. But it's almost a lot more heavily researched, because depending on Norse mythology, Greek myth, I'm doing a lot more research of everything from the type of material, the type of plants or animal-based materials they wore in their clothing and all this kind of stuff in that era. And I found out ancient Greeks had 4 different types of wine. One was called black wine. And I was like, interesting. Doesn't really sound appetizing, but okay, but fun. It is heavily researched, yet I can write the story itself a lot quicker. Yeah. And the world building of the ones that I'm developing, obviously it's a longer process. And I figured out that I put less new words on paper per day when I'm doing a project that's truly my own. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I don't know if that's helping you answer anything. You asked me like 5 questions at the same time.
I did.
Maybe more. I think I answered 2 of those.
There you go. No, I just like talking shop with other authors. So I've been wanting to do more lives. Just it's been hard scheduling and everything, but I love getting to talk shop with other authors. So like I'll sometimes get DMs from people. I'll just be like, hey, I want to start writing a book, this or that. And so like being able to dialogue and everything, I think I think it's good for authors to like talk shop with each other and kind of like not only like we're in the trenches together, but also like share techniques and be like, hey, I've been trying to do this, to help me be more efficient with my word count, or I'm trying this to help with my planning, whatever it might be. I think it's really helpful. So just, I think I am a creature of habit too. I think that's one of my biggest, if someone says like, how do I get started first? I think that's one of the first ones I say is like, figure out a time where you can be productive and write and stick to that routine, like as well as you can. Like if you're a morning person or a night owl, like, or if you have a long lunch break, whatever it is, like find that time of day and try and make that a sacred time where you're going to get words down.
Yeah, that's very true. And I did see Gabby posting comments. Also enjoying these interviews. Thank you. Appreciate that. But I do them because I learn so much. Every time I'm on one of these, I learn something or make a new connection. And that is really invaluable, at least in my experience as an indie author. It's been wonderful to make these connections because opportunities open up. And again, if you ever are bogged down, have a question about something, once you know enough of these authors, the ones who I've been fortunate to meet are very friendly, very open, very willing to help you out. And that's been amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've realized that I just started doing more cons. So I've been selling at them, being a panelist, and it's a lot of work when you're working bulk of the weekends, you have free time. But on the other hand, it's been really neat experience to now start meeting authors face to face. And again, you sit down after hours, or even the booth next to you, and you talk shop and how do you do this and when do you do that? How do you like this? How do you use this product? And again, those are great conversations to have. So make bookish buddies, make writing buddies. If you're a writer, make sure you befriend other writers and authors. It is not an independent thing. You are not an island.
Yes. It was a Jordan Con you went to, right?
I did.
Yeah, I've like how you were saying, like I've like been kind of networking with other authors and everything, and seeing cons and stuff that are around me. I have a little list of ones that I'm gonna try and be attending either this year or next year, whenever they have availability and stuff like that. But it's kind of like a charity, right? It goes to benefit
surprisingly, fun fact: all the cons that I've participated in, I've probably 5 or half dozen or something like that. They all have their charity functions, so they have a nonprofit aspect to them.
Right, nonprofit. That's the word.
So even the big ones like Dragon Con, they all have some kind of charity thing where they have opportunities where you can do the maybe silent auctions or whatever, the sponsoring to help fundraise for what they have. And I think Jordan Con this year was fundraising for some subsect under the Mayo Clinic this year. But yeah.
Very cool.
So you can always help out with the charities. I was really bad this year because I forgot to donate to the silent auction, and I felt really bad until after people were like, "Oh, you're the silent auction." I was like, "Oh yeah, I could have done that. My bad." I'm so sorry.
The cons are a lot. I mean, there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot on our plate doing a con. So I think it's easy to forget things like to go do one little thing. It was a small convention. It was like in the town next door. And I somehow got to the con without book 5 in my series. I was like, how did I forget just book 5? I was like, what box was it in? Where is it? Like, I was like, how did that happen? So I had like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's okay. It's now that I'm doing them, I live by templates. I love templates. From anything from the packing lists to, I have them all. And so it's, I've been tweaking them each time, like, okay, I want to do this, make sure I add this next time, and make sure I'm note this, because I'm a checklist person and a template person, and that does help, but that's what I need to function.
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't get there without a book.
So I can't remember where in the world you live, but I would advise, like, if you have the opportunity to try and do more of those events, it is really neat. And you said you've already participated in one. Sorry about missing book 5, but now add that to your checklist. Make sure you have all because when I was packing for this one, I had these 2 bins. I had 2 bins. I knew exactly how many books of each, and hardcover and paperback, that I was bringing. and it fit perfectly. And then I was like, wait, I published a new book. How is that going to fit in these bins? Woo! I need more bins.
Do you bring a little bit of every book, or do you bring mostly your early books? Like, what do you usually do when you're going to cons?
My radius is still, I have not traveled outside of Georgia to go to cons. So saying that, I can pack a little bit more than some people who are flying to events, right, because I can drive to them. But with that said, yes, I bring a little bit of everything, and I definitely almost double the first book.
Yes.
Because I want to make sure that the first book's always going to sell the best, but you will have people who want the whole series. They'll just especially if you have a complete series, they're like, I'll buy the series. And if you give them a discount for buying the series bundle, more power, because a lot of people will do that. But yeah, definitely the first one, because most likely what you're gonna get is someone's like, I want to support you, or I want to try you out, and so book one.
And you never know, because some people because I've had that same thing where people are like, I buy the whole series. They're like, I'm such an avid reader, I read so much. They're like, I just want all of it because I'm gonna plow through it in the next couple of weeks. And so that's why I've always I always want to have all of them. But when you have a lot of books, it's also like, obviously you're going to sell the most one, so you want to have a ton of those, but it's like, is it worth it? And so I usually bring a couple of, book 7, 8, and 9, and 10 and everything. But yeah, the most of one and everything. I'm in the Nashville area, so I want to do Southern Book Festival in, I want to say October, maybe. And then there's a couple in Knoxville that I want to do, like TBR Con is one that I want to do. And then, so I want to kind of start with those ones, because I've done some small events. I haven't done anything like a big con yet, as a writer. But those are two that I want to kind of start off with, and then do some other ones. So Jordan Con is on the list, and then
there's one in Tennessee and Chattanooga. I think it was called Liberty Con, and one of my bookish friends runs that one, and I was talking about it because she was like, if you want to do one that's outside of Georgia, you should try that one. So I might try to look into that for next year.
Nice. Yeah. I have a list of ones that I want to try out. There's a guy, I think his name is Alfred Miller. He's got a bunch of videos about doing different cons and everything in kind of like Chattanooga, Knoxville area. And I think he was at one this weekend. I don't know if it was Jordan Con. It might have been another one. Oh no, it was Huntsville Expo, I think it was. He said that was a really good event, so I'm gonna add that one to the list as well.
Perfect. And that's the thing, is you start building out, and the more people you meet and talk to. So I have to do this puzzle piece thing. Yeah, I get it successfully. I don't know why they always do that right at the hour. But I lost my train of thought. That puzzle piece got me, and my brain went,
networking with other people and meeting more people and everything.
Oh yeah, but then they just the wide variety of opportunities start, and people just like, oh, have you heard about this? I'm like, no. Oh, have you heard about this? No. So that's a great thing. I will have to say, this was the one thing I learned. I thought I was very smart about this, coming up with this idea for Jordan Con, because the series that's the most popular for an adult audience, I always know that's the easiest sell. I thought I brought enough books. I did barely, but the beginning of the third day, I was running really low on book one, and I was in paperback, and I was just like, what happens in the weird scenario that I sell out of book one and have all these others? And so I came up with the idea, because I do have a Shopify. I, behind the scenes, created a discount. And so if people were interested, and this was my idea, I didn't have to use it, but if people were interested, as long as they bought one of the books, book two, I would give them a 25% discount code for one. It would still come from me. Pretty, compensates essentially the shipping plus a little bit more. Sorry that I didn't have more copies here, but it was just versus just sitting there and being like, I'm sorry, I'm out. I'm like, but I still want the sale.
No, that's a great idea.
That's a really good idea. Didn't need to use it, but that was my little crafty, my little ha ha.
Yeah, that's another good reason to make that Shopify, though. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think you can do discounts on the TikTok shop. I've never been successful with my TikTok shop. Even when I'm posting TikTok videos for the shop, people still buy through my website. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. I don't care. I want the sale. I want you to enjoy the book. It's still consigned. You get all the goodies. It's all in the same system. But it's just interesting. I make way more sales selling through this app, but people just choose to go to my website. I'm like,
Interesting.
I know.
Because they always say, like, the least number of clicks to get the sale is the best, but it's interesting that they're taking an extra, I don't know how many clicks, but they're going outside of the app. That's interesting.
Well, also, I have realized that now that I have my capability to distribute my ebooks and audiobooks wide through BookFunnel, I can do both of them too. So I can sell audio and ebooks and digital stuff direct that the TikTok shop only allows you to do physical goods at this moment. So it does have a lot more options on the website.
Do you like BookFunnel?
I was going to say, I've never had any issues with BookFunnel, and so in that sense, I like it. I'm still, as you will hear so many authors say, wish I was better at marketing. Yeah. But yeah, that platform BookFunnel, I've never had any problems with, and the people have been very responsive if I had questions, and they do a lot of education sessions. If you don't know anything, they... I don't know if it's monthly or every other week, but they're usually doing some kind of free, you sign up and we'll walk you through this process or this process. And I've been fortunate to meet a number of those BookFunnel people doing stuff like Author Nation, actually talking to them face to face. And again, very nice group. So I do like them.
That's awesome.
And also, they're not maybe as capable as Funnel at the moment, but there is also Story Origin that does allow you to distribute some of that too.
Yeah, I have a Story Origin account that I was doing with my beta for my very first Dragon book, and I haven't gotten to play with it as much as I would really probably should. But yeah, that's a good one to know.
The founder of that one, he's a sweetheart, and so he's always there to help you and. Be very happy to say, hey, if there's something you want out of this app, let me know, and we'll see if we can work that in. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's fun when you start meeting all the people in the book community. They all want to support each other.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think I heard it first from the 20 books to 50K Facebook group. Is like a rising tide raises all ships. We're colleagues, we're not competition.
Yeah, and that's Author Nation is that the conference that spins off of that since they're rebranding last year. That is what they're called right now. But if anybody listening, or as well as you, have any other questions or topics you wanted to cover, this is that time. If not, I'm going to start the wrap-up process because I know I need to eat dinner.
Yes, same here.
But it's been such a fun time reconnecting with you. I'm super excited about your future series because I will eat any dragon books up. I love it.
That's all I've been reading lately is if it's like got dragon in the title or if it's got dragons on the cover, I'm like, I'm in,
Oh yeah. And, like I said, I've been having so much fun working on my dragon book, and it's been such a joy because I've always loved that aspect of fantasy to the point where when I was in college, and I was studying fine art, I did a solo art show, and it was the natural history of the dragon was my solo art
nice.
Show. So I do like dragons.
Nice. Well, next time we do one of these lives, we'll have to dive into our dragon lore and what are our takes on dragons and everything. We'll have to do that next time.
That would be really neat.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, if you want to do more lives, again, let me know. I do plan them in advance, and schedule. I'm a scheduler.
Let's schedule just a purely dragon talk. It's all we'll talk about is just dragon stuff.
I love that. It would actually kind of be fun to see if we get a couple authors together who all have dragon books.
Yes.
We could do a dragon round table.
Let's do it. That sounds amazing. Let's do it.
Well, let me actually put that on my notes for the day, and I'll see when I find a moment to take a breath and see if that's kind of fun to pull that together.
Amazing. I love it.
And when do you think you're going to publish your first book of your?
I'm shooting for it this summer. I'm kind of waiting for my other editor to free up her schedule, and hopefully she'll be able to edit in May, and I'll be able to start getting it ready around June. So I'm hoping for June, but we'll see.
Well, that's around when I'm going to hopefully release mine.
Nice.
But if that's the case, maybe we could do a book swap.
Let's do it. Okay. Absolutely.
Anywho, thank you everybody who's been joining in, listening to us ramble about all things books and publishing. And
all right, awesome.
And thank you again. But it is time for me to eat, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their week. Bye, everyone.
Good one. See ya.